Welcome here. I have taught hundreds of adults how to play the violin beautifully, and I learned that if you make certain mistakes, then it's quite impossible to go forward or to progress, and that it will always sound bad. And the longer you make those mistakes, the harder it will be to correct them later. And that's the reason today I want to show you 10 fatal mistakes and how you can correct them now. So the first mistake is to hold the violin very hard between the forefinger and the thumb. Okay, that's something I see a lot, and that's a very big mistake, because if you hold the violin like this, okay, what will happen is that you will never be able to have a good vibrato later on, and you will never be able to make shift. Okay, so that's why what you want to do is to start like this. Make like a V between your thumb and your forefinger, and then you will rest the violin on it, like that. Okay, I can show you from here. I do like this, and then it comes here. And I need to feel that I can take the violin up with it, okay, without needing a lot of strength. And when I do that, okay, the violin rests on this V, okay? I'm not gripping it from both sides tightly, I'm just letting it rest. And that's very important, because when I do it, I can move my hand very freely between the position, I can make vibrato, and my hand can stay really relaxed. So the second mistake is to practice using some fingering tape or a tuner, okay? So that's fingering tape, probably you know those kind of things, yeah? And especially in English, I see a lot of people using and recommending this. And that's a very big mistake, okay? So let me go a little bit further here. The problem when you use fingering tape, at the beginning, it's look amazing, yeah? You play, you just begin, you're a beginner, and then you know exactly where the tone at, you feel like a god. The problem is that what I saw a lot, every time a student come to me after they learned with fingering tape, always their intonation is very bad and the sound of the violin is very bad. Why is that? Is it that when they play, they are always looking at their finger, to where they need to put their finger, and because of that, they are not hearing what they are doing, okay? And because of that, it's very difficult for them to improve their hearing later on. And I know a lot of people think that's something new and amazing, but first and foremost, I have to tell you that's not new, okay? Actually, so I read most of the books about violin learning starting 1751, yeah, that's hundreds of books, most of the books on violin learning. And what I found is that actually there was those kind of things already for hundreds of years. Actually, in a very old book written by the father of Mozart, you know, the compositor, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. His father was Leopold Mozart. He's one of the best violin pedagogues in history and the teacher of Mozart. And what he writes about this, okay? And he says how bad it is to learn with this, okay? So that's not new. Of course, what's new are those nice plastic things with colors. That's new, okay, because we have China. But before there was other way to do the same, okay, and this method never worked, and that's the reason why my research showed too that there is no great violinist, no great violin teacher that use those kind of things. Other people practice with a tuner, okay, that show you exactly where the tone is, if it's too low, too high. That's the same problem, because you are not training your hearing, you are just looking and it's showing you if it's too low or too high. So what you should do instead is that if you are a complete beginner, the best way is to use recording of what you need to play. For example, for my students, I recorded every single exercise and piece I give them, yeah, and then they can train to play them with me or after. So the two best method is you hear a recording, then you hear it first, you memorize it, then you try to play it after that, okay? Only using your hearing. or you play at the same time. That's the two best methods for beginners. And when you practice like this, you will be astonished how fast you can find the right tones. So now to the third mistake. What I see a lot is that everybody is avoiding playing the fourth finger. Actually, what shocked me one time, I was looking at some YouTube video in English from someone. I will not say the name, but and this person said that herself she was not using the forefinger, and that's okay. If you don't feel confident with the forefinger, don't use it. That's a big mistake, okay? You need to use the fourth finger, so always, okay? The most you can use it, the better. Why? It's because the fourth finger, like you probably see, is weaker than the other finger, okay? Even if you are always practicing the fourth finger with some exercise, if when you play your pieces you are instead always using open strings, then it's not gonna work, okay? So basically what I recommend, that's first do a lot of exercises with the fourth finger. We'll see that a little later too. And secondly, when you have a piece, try to use the fourth finger every time it's possible, or not be, lazy and say, okay, I will use the open string. Because you should not forget something very important. When you play in first position, of course you could play only with three fingers on the open string. But even in first position, if you get some accidentals, like flat or sharp, you will see that it will not be possible to use an open string and you will need to use the fourth finger. And then later on, when you will move to outer position, you will need the fourth finger, so always, okay, where you can't use the open string. And later on, when you will do double stops, the same, okay? So the sooner you practice it, the better. It's very difficult to train that later on. So then the mistake number 4 is to practice only pieces, okay? I see a lot of beginners doing that, and the problem is that when I studied what the best violin teachers in history are doing, one of the first thing I found, that everyone, the students, were always doing 50% of the time technical exercise, okay? So technical exercise, there is a lot of difference, but for example, these are some basic examples that I'm giving my students. For example, to learn to play on the D string, okay? And what's very important with exercise, that they are really tailored to your level and that you, with them, really learn the violin step by step. And later on, it's of course very important to practice etudes too. Then the 5th mistake, it's learning with the Suzuki-Method. If you are an adult, okay, for me an adult, it's someone, okay, what is an adult? So maybe someone 18 plus, it depends on the country, but for learning, actually, basically, so everyone probably 6 or 7 years old is an adult, and before one it's very different when you are 3 or 4. So then here's something important to understand first. Before Suzuki, okay, and I'm not speaking only of Suzuki, but all the children method that you see everywhere and that you are maybe using, not only Suzuki. What the problem is that those kind of methods were developed to teach very, very young children. Actually, before this method came, it was usual to start learning the violin when you were 7-year-old or 6-year-old, but mostly not sooner, okay? After that, they start teaching violin with children 3 or 4 years old. Why? The theory from Suzuki, for example, was that if you learn to play the violin in a very, very young age, with 3 or 4, maybe you could learn it like you learn your mother tongue, okay, your primary language, just by hearing it mostly and then repeating it. The problem, of course, is that if you are listening to this video, you are probably not a 3 or 4 year old. And for that reason, it will be very difficult to you to learn with this kind of method until it will make no sense. On top of that, one of the rules was that the mother of the child should be able herself to play the violin first. Okay? It was a condition. If not, the child was not to be taught. It's written in the book from Suzuki, so everybody can check it. Just read the book from Suzuki. Oh, and I forgot, I'm gonna publish a lot of new videos on this channel, probably 1 or 2 every week, And later on, I plan to start teaching students in English. So if you want to stay informed, now when I publish no video on new things, yeah, just click on subscribe. And if you have any question, just put them in the comment section below. And in exchange, I promise I will work on my accent. So next thing, the mistake number 6 is to hold the bow correctly. Okay, so yeah, probably you saw a lot of videos or things on you should hold the bow, or maybe you do it more or less. Yeah, the thing is that something important to understand is that the violin, it's an old instrument. Yeah, it's made already hundreds of years that people play the violin, and there was already a lot of amazing violinists and a lot of amazing violin teachers that spent their lifetime trying every possible way to hold the bow, every possible way to play the violin, and so forth. And what happened is that before, like still even at the beginning of the 20th century, especially before we had different bow, like the German bow hold, was like this on the last knuckle. Then we had the Russian bow hold was with on the first one, and then the Belgian, French one were more here. Okay, so there was really different schools. Now it's not like that anymore. When you look, so all the best violinists, they have the same. When you read books on the best violin teacher, it's the same. What's the most simple way to, the best way, the most optimized way to hold the bow is like that. I will show you in 1 second. And when you hold the bow like the right way, you will see that your sound will be better. Every technique will be will sound better, and you will learn the violin way faster. So it's very important. And the right way to hold the bow is like that. That means I make first like this. It's come here, then there, then my forefinger here, then him here, and the small here. And everything is round and relaxed, okay? And I don't want to have the finger too far from another, or too next to another. I don't want to be here. I want to be here, pretty low, okay? And let the bow a little bit lower. And that's very important. And if you are unsure if you are doing it correctly, here comes mistake 7. Never record yourself on video. The best way to improve yourself, especially if you're learning alone, but it doesn't matter. I ask every one of my students to record themselves regularly. It's to just record yourself on video and then look at your video. Because you will hear what you are doing, how it really sounds, okay? Not like what you think how it sounds, not what your teachers say how it sounds, yeah? Because I see that a lot, what teachers say, oh no, it sounds good what you're doing, it sounds good. But then I ask people to record themselves and say, oh, it sounds not good. I don't like that, okay? So you should really know what you are doing. And at the same time, you will be able really to see what you are doing, yeah? Because maybe you think, oh, I'm already doing everything correctly. And then you will hear, you feel, oh, it's not good. And it don't looks correct too. So mistake number 8 is correcting notes all the time. Maybe you are playing or practicing something, yeah, and you do something like this. Okay, you are always moving the finger after it to correct the note, because you hear the note is not really correct, so you adjust it quickly. Okay, sometimes it's good to do this, yeah, especially when you are in a concert. Okay, when in a concert, you don't want to keep playing a note that's really wrong, yeah. But when you are practicing, okay, you should train to get the note right directly. Okay, and when instead you are always doing something like this, yeah, the problem is that you don't learn to play the right note directly. You are learning to play the wrong note and then to correct. Okay, so you are learning to do this with multiple movements. But what you want is to do the most simple movement. And anyway, if you hear it, everybody can hear it. Okay, so that's not a good solution to correct notes. Okay, that's never a good solution. It's only like the last solution in concert for survival. Okay, but it should, when you practice, basically you should mostly not correct the tone, but repeat from the previous tone to get the tone directly right. And that brings us to next mistake, number 9, is to always practice with vibrato. Okay, I see a lot of people where you practice and they are always, and they have some sort kind of vibrato. It's not a real vibrato, it's more like, you know, just a little trembling like this, a little bit of movement, and that's very bad because doesn't allow you to really hear how the note sound. Okay, when you practice, you should mostly practice without vibrato and articulate the fingers so that you really hear very clearly every tone and can correct it accordingly. If you want to practice the vibrato, but it should be separate most of the time, and then you should know what you want to practice, yeah, like the regularity, how fast it is, those kind of things, but not just so the whole times have some kind of vibrato is really a bad habit. So, and then mistake number 10 is to learn the violin without a step-by-step plan, okay? So that's very important, yeah, and actually, yeah, it's quite difficult to show you. I will show you in other videos how to do that yourself, but the problem is that most violin teachers don't really have a step-by-step plan, yeah, they just have those books with a lot of pieces, yeah, from easy to hard, and then every week they do the next piece, those kind of things, and that's not a good method, okay? So what you want is really to try to learn the violin step by step, beginning with the most basic things, like having a beautiful sound with the bow, then learning only on one string to get the right note every time, okay? Then learning another string, then learning another finger position, those kind of things, yeah? Really going very step by step. And doing that, yeah, what you want is really to master every step, don't go to the next step, okay? Basically, yeah, if your sound is not good, okay, if it's doing those kind of things, yeah, you should fix that first before you add complexity to the system, okay? Because violin can be complex if you learn it the wrong way, okay? If you learn the right way, step by step is easy. So you need to learn to play the violin beautifully from the beginning. And that's one of the points of all the best violin teachers. They teach how to learn the violin from the beginning, so that it sounds beautifully. And that's one of the most important things. Hey, thanks you very much for watching my first video. And I'm going to publish a lot more videos, so you could check them here or there. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to learn to play the violin beautifully as an adult, just check my new videos. Thanks you and enjoy.